Sure, Game of Thrones has the reputation of being all grown up and dark, but did they kill a child in episode 5? Didn't think so. Let's get started.
Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba-ba.
Hello, my friends. Welcome to Thumb Together TV. My name is Andrew Fantasia. Today we're going to be talking about His Dark Materials, Episode 5, The Lost Boy, together. As usual, if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to give it a thumbs up and give some love to that subscribe button as well. And don't forget, if you're a fan of fantasy like His Dark Materials, you're probably going to like this. Side Scroller is a book that I wrote. That's my name right there on top of the title because I think highly of myself like that. Side Scroller is a fantasy adventure that takes place in a world that runs on video game logic. Where can you buy this? Amazon. You can get it in paperback or ebook, whichever you prefer. Grab it now, write a review, get it as a Christmas gift for people you know who like video games or books or fantasy or all of the above. You can't go wrong, and you're supporting an author who's trying to make his way in the world. Everybody wins. Danielle Steele and Tom Clancy have enough money. Don't buy their books anymore. So let's talk about The Lost Boy. This episode kind of infuriated me. I think it did some things very, very right, and I think it did other things absolutely hideously, terribly wrong. Let's start with the bad stuff and get it out of the way. Possibly the most disturbing moment of the entire His Dark Materials trilogy is this moment that we see in this episode where Lyra learns that there is a nearby fishing village that has had a problem with something akin to a ghost. She doesn't know the full story, she just knows something terrible is haunting that town, and it freaked everybody out to the point where they ran away. In this episode, same thing happens. She sees her alethiometer and it tells her there's some kind of ghostly thing going on. You need to go investigate, and she does. And it's harrowing and it's creepy. The town is completely deserted. Even the bear is like, something is off here, I'm scared. And when that giant bear is scared, you ought to be nervous too. But Lyra summons up all her bravery, and it's this great moment, which I have to call to light, where she's acting very, very brave, and she's walking towards this terrifying hut in the middle of this abandoned village, and Pan is like, hey, this is scary, let's turn back, I'm not having this. And Lyra says, don't make me look bad in front of the bear, which I think was so cool and so Lyra that yes, she's putting on this brave face because she is our brave hero, and that's the way this character is in the story. But she's not 100% perfect. She is terrified. She's probably shitting bricks right now at the thought of what she's going to find in that house, but she doesn't want to turn around and run away because she's trying to save face in front of the giant bear warrior. That was one of the best moments of the episode. Not the best. We'll get to that. But she opens that door and she enters that hut, and who does she find but the little boy whose disappearance sparked this whole search in the first place? She finds Billy Costa. But something's wrong. Something is amiss. Billy Costa is lying in this hut without his demon. And that is such a horrifying prospect for everybody in this world that it is as scary as seeing a ghost would be to us. And this is where this episode of the show took a nosedive for me. As I've said, this is one of the saddest, most genuinely disturbing and frightening scenes in this entire trilogy. And this is a trilogy full of sad, disturbing, frightening scenes. So that's saying something. But the whole scene is played to be terrifying. It is played as a horror. And that terror and horror hinges on the fact that everybody in the world has demons, and seeing a human without a demon is frightening. It is ghost levels of frightening. So if that is the case, why in the holy name of all that is sacred did we see so few demons in this episode prior to that reveal? This episode should have been swarming with demons. We should have seen everybody's demon as much as possible to really hammer home the fact that when you see somebody without one, that is disturbing. That is off. That is not right. Something is amiss there. And it did not do that. There's so many opportunities we could have had to see Pan. There's so many opportunities we could have had to have Hester, give Hester a line of dialogue. We saw Hester a couple times before, and she's just standing next to Lee Scoresby, but she doesn't say anything. She's like set dressing. Pan, you don't see him at all until right before they're about to walk into the hut. Why were the demons not more present? My God, you squandered one of the best scenes in the trilogy by doing this. You squandered that reveal of seeing a human without a demon, and then it just gets worse from there, because here's the thing. We meet Will Perry in this episode. Will Perry, for those who don't know, is the secondary main protagonist of this series. He is not introduced until the second book. In the second book, he becomes a main character. He becomes like Lyra's sidekick. He's the Chewie to her Han. He hangs out with her. We meet Will Perry now in episode 5 of the first season, which is fine. I'm okay with that. You want to pave the way, you want to make Will Perry a bigger deal, do it. But if there's one episode where it was against their best interests to introduce a normal character from the normal world who does not have demons, this is the worst possible time they could have done it. Because the more we see of Will and his world, which we do see a lot of, the more we are seeing humans walking around without demons, because that's how we live here. We don't have demons on this plane of existence. So we see all of that. We see humans normally walking around without little animal companions. It looks normal to us. So when we see Billy Costa in that hut, again, it looks normal to us. There's nothing disturbing about it. It just looks like a kid lying in a cold fishing hut. Any hope of contrast is utterly squashed beneath the boots of missed opportunities, because instead of just showing us plain and simple nothing but the world full of demons and a boy without one, we see a world where we barely see the demons, plus the normal world where there are no demons at all, and then a boy without one. He doesn't stand out anymore. He fits right in with everybody else, because clearly the show is being stingy with the demons. Oh, that made me so upset. Why would you miss that great opportunity to make this a gut-wrenching scene? And what breaks my heart is that, other than that, it was a gut-wrenching scene. We got to see Ma Costa and Tony Costa grieving over the loss of this kid because, yeah, he doesn't make it. Billy dies of hypothermia and probably of having his soul ripped out. That's a thing that happened to him. And we get to see their mourning process and their grieving process and how they have to... The mom has to cremate this poor kid. She has to cremate her own son. She has to... This isn't the normal world where she just turns a dial and an oven turns on. She has to light the flint with her own two hands and spark the fire that is going to consume her son's body. This was heartbreaking. This was devastating, but only up to a certain point, because that loss of his demon character, whose name is Radder, was not felt at all, especially because the mom keeps asking, "Where's Radder? Where's Radder?" And then when the boy is about to die, she's like, just go, you'll be with Radder soon. We don't know who Radder is because we're not seeing Radder or demons pretty much at all. This was not my favorite. This was not my favorite way to handle this at all. We have this very long scene where Lyra is riding on Yorick Bernison as they go to this village, and then later they stop to eat and they have this very deep conversation back and forth between Lyra and Yorick. Pan is obviously with Lyra. Pan should have hopped out onto the snow and joined in the conversation. Pan should have talked to Yorick too. Remind us that demons are there. Constantly, filmmakers, you should have been reminding us that the demons existed, because seeing a kid without one should have been a bigger punch to the gut, and it wasn't at all. Man, they really screwed the pooch on Billy Costa. But I'll tell you where they did not screw the pooch. We finally got to meet the witch of all witches. We finally got to meet Serafina Pekkala. She is everything I hoped she would be in terms of design. She's got this great design on her, this dress that flows when she's flying around. She looks eerie and beautiful at the same time, which is how the witches are supposed to look. She oozes power because the witches are very powerful. They just nailed Serafina, but more importantly, they nailed her relationship with Farder Coram. Ruth Wilson has been given amazing performances as Mrs. Coulter throughout this show, and Daphne Keane is a fantastic child actress, and she's doing beautiful things with Lyra. Absolutely beautiful things. But I think we've hit a new height in terms of acting chops when it comes to James Cosmo and what he did with Farder Coram in this beautiful scene where he's reunited with his long-lost love, Serafina Pekkala. She doesn't age because she's an immortal witch. He is an old man now. Clearly, when he was younger, they had a thing. That thing included a son who died very suddenly as an infant, and that heartbreak is all over James Cosmo's face. And to really hammer home the whole reach into my chest and rip my heart out of it because I don't need it anymore, Serafina brings up the fact that there are multiple worlds out there, and right away Farder Coram's face lights up and he asks, anything is possible in these worlds? And she realizes that he's talking about maybe seeing their son, or at least a parallel version of him again, and she has to say, no, it doesn't work like that. That's not possible. And he just shatters. And he realizes he's looking at this woman who was once his whole life, who was once his future. Once upon a time, Farder Coram looked at that woman, at Serafina Pekkala, and was like, this woman is my whole world. She is my present and my future. I'm going to spend the rest of my life with her and our son, and we're going to be happy. And all of that is gone now. And with not a shred of hope left in his body, he asks her if the two of them will ever meet again. And I just about was... I was done. I was done at that point. The totally botched tragedy of Billy Costa was rectified with the wonderfully subtle tragedy of Serafina Pekkala and Farder Coram and their baby boy. Well done, everybody involved. I don't know the name of the actress who plays Serafina, but she rocked it. James Cosmo rocked it. That whole scene, again, a new addition, not in the books. They just added more to the story, which I love. That scene was my favorite scene of his Dark Materials so far. If they keep doing more of that, yes please, but for the love of God, do not forget how important your demon characters are. And that's how I'm going to end this video, with one final plea to the people making this show, because I'm assuming it's been greenlit for season 2, and I'm assuming everybody who works for HBO and BBC watches my show on a regular basis. That's why I have, 8 views on this video right now? But if you are watching and you are involved in this, don't forget, guys, the demons of Philip Pullman's world are one of the greatest inventions in fantasy fiction. I forget who the quote is by, but somebody said that the muses were smiling down on Philip Pullman the day he came up with demons, and by God, is that ever true. The idea of these spirit animals who are your soul, existing as its own being outside your body, everything about them is just phenomenal storytelling, and you wasted them in this episode. You absolutely wasted that. However much money you spent to buy the rights to his Dark Materials to make the show, let's say it was $12 million, you just wasted $12 million by not using the demons correctly when it comes to the tragedy of Billy Costa. Remember that for season 2. That's all I'm going to say. Anyway, that has been his Dark Materials, episode 5, The Lost Boy. You are awesome. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Andrew Fantasia. I'll see you here next time, and until then, adios.